Internal light. What am I talking about? What is internal light? To me, internal light is like your desire, your willpower, what people might say is the burning fire, in the pit of your stomach. Basic survival instincts. But as that light or fire begins to grow, it changes our desires as humans. And in turn, it allows us to control more aspects of our reality. We've got books like The 48 Laws of Power that show you a lot of different aspects of human nature and how, from an individualistic perspective, it can look like it's you against the world. But for some reason, we were given duality, the yin and yang, the light and the dark, good and the bad, essentially. And whatever created us made us social creatures. We create groups based on culture, mind state, environment, and in turn, with all of this control that we're trying to gain over our worlds, it's like trying to become like God. And I say like God because it really is like God. And just on another side note, this is something else I was thinking about, is the generation of language, because obviously we've got words like blasphemy and all of that, and I'm not really trying to offend anybody. But what I'm saying is, from my perspective, for me to create a word or to even want to convey that I've experienced something would mean I'd have to have experienced it. So when we get to words like omnipotent and omnipresent, it really does make me wonder, would someone have had to experience that to even want to convey it in words that was even possible? Because how do you convey what you haven't experienced? Just a side note. But yeah, so with all of this control that it seems that it gives us as this inner fire grows, it's almost becoming godlike in the sense of your ability to thrive in your environment instead of just survive. And then even more on the term of godlike would mean that there's probably multiple versions of this godlike being. And it brings me to things like, before monotheistic religion, we had like Mount Olympus, the Greek gods. And when I come to 2025 now, Mount Olympus is actually a real mountain. It's climbable. Maybe from the perspective of the people in those days, it wasn't easy to ascend to the peak of that mountain, but now that mountain's been accomplished. But it's interesting how at a period of time when it could have been perceived that the gods lived on top of the mountain is where the distance would have come from. And then if we look at how we live our current lives and how people look at maybe celebrities, etc., and how they are ordinary people and they've just gone for a particular path and gained some form of affluence, but it puts them at the top of the mountain and there's a distance that doesn't look like it can be traversed, but somehow they made it there. And just like the Greek gods, there was multiple, the god of love, the god of war, etc. So there's loads of different gods. And I also think of like pyramids and how we've got mystery schools and how even the pyramid is used to symbolically represent so many different things, but in most of the representations where you see a pyramid used, At the top of the pyramid is where the best of the scenario resides at the peak of the mountain. And then it also gets me to think about alchemy and the process of turning lead to gold, or to be more realistic, the process of how even water transforms. Science is showing us that water can have multiple states, which all have different frequencies. And by that, I mean the speed of which the molecule inside moves, or how they collide with each other. In ice, the molecules are slow, sort of like when you see like a sine wave, which is like that frequency wave thing, if you don't know what I'm talking about. But Google it if you don't know. I'll put up a picture. So yeah, when you see like a slow or a low frequency, you see big waves that actually move really slowly. And I find that akin to the molecules in ice, when they'll say that they're almost static and they're basically not moving, but they are, you know. And then I think about how as that ice gets heated up, it becomes water, and the molecules are moving a lot faster, and they're able to interact with the planet in different ways. For instance, ice on this planet is pretty stagnant. It doesn't move, you know. I mean, if we get hailstones, that's because of something that's going on in the sky. But ice doesn't really move much. If you've never seen any icebergs, you'd really have to go travel to go see some. Water, on the other hand, travels around the whole planet. The whole planet. So in terms, the same chemical, H2O, is moving at different rates across the earth based on whatever form it's in. And then if we heat up the water even more, we know it becomes gas, and obviously or steam. And that's what our clouds are made of, and they travel all over the planet as well. And they also at certain temperatures then become water and give back to the planet, etc. And all of this couldn't have happened if there wasn't any form of heat. If we didn't have the sun, or if we didn't have the earth burning at whatever its internal core is meant to be burning at, we wouldn't have any form of heat to melt this ice and transform it into water, to then even heat it up enough to give us gas and give us a whole ozone of a whole living, breathing environment, somewhere that life can thrive in to a degree. So without heat or light, we really couldn't survive. So in relation to you or me as a person, like, how does this internal light affect us? Whether we want to call it ambition, drive, feeling motivated, if we just look at it from like an alchemical perspective, slow movement is akin to low frequencies and slow vibrations. So in the human capacity, we could link that to not being physically active. And when you're not physically active, you're a couch potato, you don't really go out much, it slows down your mental activity, which is akin to being like an ice cube. You know, if you think about those ice cubes, they don't really have to think about much, they're not doing much, you know, they're just cold personality, low vitality, nothing's really going on over there, you know. So that's the way I'm thinking of an ice cube, not just as like a horrible person. It's more to do with the way that it moves through the earth. It's pretty static, you know, and you're not going to get much vitality from being around just pure ice. You're probably just going to be in complete survival mode all the time, which doesn't allow your brain to be creative. But another interesting point is that for ice cubes to be present, or for your vibration to be slow or your frequency to be low, your internal fire would have to be dim. Not from an opinionated perspective, but from more of an alchemical scientific perspective. The benefit of cultivating internal fire is so that we can move from being ice to flowing like the water and eventually being as free as the breeze, which would correlate to you being at the top of the mountain. So how does an individual increase their fire? It's all about your burning desires and understanding what's not allowing your fire to grow and what's keeping you cold. There's a reason why it's easier to keep people indoors, in front of a screen, completely non-interactive with the world around them, to keep people satisfied with living vicariously through what they see on a screen. Same reason VR is something that could impact the younger generation more than we think. It keeps our desires small. It's been proven our brains can't tell the difference between reality when we're tuned into the TV or whatever source of screen you tune into, gaming, TV, film, general use of your computer or your phone. So if they can inject the vision of a beach into your mind so that you can hear the waves now for a fraction of the cost of what it would be to experience the real thing, it means that you'll settle, because your brains become satisfied. And it releases particular hormones even though it's not the real experience. So you still lose out on a lot, but they're able to feed you a lot of dopamine.